What's up, everybody? It's Matt from Rocky's War Room, and today we have another episode for you of Antares Adventures. This time it's number 6, guys. Can you believe it? It's already 6. We've done 6 of these silly things. And then tonight is all about Algoryn. And tonight we have with us, or this morning, I should say, we have Tim Bancroft, of course.
Hello!
Mr. Tabletop War Games. Warlord, sorry, Sergey and Kevin.
You've ruined our brand. Our brand is destroyed now.
Tabletop Warlord, Sergey and Kevin.
Good Lord.
And of course, not Jay.
Why am I here?
You're filling in a checkbox.
That's right.
F and G. That's the checkbox. F and G.
Awesome. And tonight's all about, or tonight, I keep saying tonight, but it's this morning, is all about Algoryn. One of the first factions that I ever played next to Concord. Obviously because of Strike on Car 9, which is a great set. We'll talk about that. I know Sergey and Kevin here have had extensive work with the Strike on Car 9 box set.
We're knee deep in it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I've had 3 different paint schemes I've tried on test models, and I still cannot decide what color I'm going to paint them. And I'll probably just end up with some sort of red scheme. But anyway, nice hair, Sergey, Jason says.
Yeah. So my COVID hair had become somewhat voluminous. The sides were like out past my headphones, and I was like, I can't handle it anymore.
You're starting to look like Robinson Crusoe.
Yeah.
I think we have to say that you're nowhere near Kevin's sartorial elegance when it comes to chin and upper lip.
I know that's true. That's true. I'm cursed with my Irish heritage. It's good. It's a slow growing.
Well, that's something you'll have to work on, isn't it?
Squeeze really hard, Sergey.
Give me 3 years and I'll have a small mustache.
Well, one of these days, you guys will have to show up, and Sergey, you'll have to dye your hair brown and put a fake mustachio on, or unless you can grow one. And you just beat each other.
Yeah, we'll do it for Halloween.
So you're like my height, not like stay in school.
Yeah, we'll get you some platform shoes.
Nice.
Some stilettos. Yeah. Anyway, tonight's not about that.
Thank God.
It's not about hair care. Tonight is about the Algoryn Prosperate. I believe I said that right. Prosperate.
Yeah.
Yep.
The best engine.
As always, I'm going to give the floor to Tim. Give us a brief description of who the Algoryn are, and then we'll talk about them a little bit.
Okay. Well, the Algoryn themselves are a particular pan-human morph who basically came to be because of the incredibly dense and horrific radiation on Algor. So they developed sort of like keratin, a layer of keratin on their heads to protect them from the radiation in the sun. And but generally they are very hardy folk as a result anyway. So they can resist radiation. They're quite on the tabletop in terms of stats. They've got a better res than a lot of other creatures, humanoids, apart from the Boromites. And they're pretty tough overall. The main presence in Antares, though, is in the area of Antares called the Determinate, where they have 12. It used to be 13, but now it's just 12 worlds.
Zyra, right? Yeah.
Yes, let's not mention Zyra. They get upset about that. Those are the core Algoryn worlds scattered around the northern bit of the Determinate. But they are the main military arm and main coordination and organizational arm for something called the Algoryn Prosperate, which is a federation of around 300 main worlds plus their subordinate worlds. So there's actually more than 300 worlds overall, but there's only 300 main worlds approximately, and they supervise and protect trade between all those worlds, and they they provide the principal military arm of the Prosperate in terms of defending the Prosperate from outside harm, such as the Gar, which is a bit of a problem because recently the Gar have appeared on the southern end of the Prosperate, and the Gar have just become rampaging through human space and burning up and destroying worlds, and the Algoryn are finding that they are having to fight them off, which takes up a lot of effort on their part. And the Algoryn find that the Gar are something they wish on somebody else, but the Gar just don't care, and they just keep going. They're humans. So there you go. On the tabletop, though, the Algoryn are probably one of the most potent. They're a wargamers army, you could say. They are very flexible. They don't necessarily have strengths, except in the fact that they don't have any weakness at all. They've got some really nice surprises here, there, and everywhere. One of those is my little image that I've got there, which is an Algoryn skimmer, comet skinner. But their basic, once you master them, their basic squad, the Algoryn infantry squad, is one of the most flexible and adaptable in Antares. In the starter set of Kara 9, you have 3 of those to 2 of the Concord ones. And if you're a starter, if you're just starting Antares, that's probably about right. But once you get the hang of an AI squad and you've equipped it and set it up right and you pay for the right equipment, an AI squad is easily a match for a Concord strike squad. So they're really quite flexible. But I said it's their adaptability, that lack of weakness, that ability to adapt to any situation they come across that makes them a real wargamers army. I.e., if you're a good gamer and you like flexible forces and all the rest of it, then the Algoryn are probably, I would imagine, the army for you, I'd guess. Does that make sense, Sergey? I can see you nodding.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm a firm believer that the AI squad is the best 4 pounds for 4 points infantry unit in the game. At 95 points, you can get 2 micro X launchers, or is it? It might be 97. But either way, it's under 100 points, which means that in a 500-point army, you can have 5 squads, whereas most armies can only have 4 of equivalent power.
Yeah,
and they just have so much firepower. Even if you like ignore sling net ammo as a doodad, they just put out shots like crazy. They can take down Gar battle suits better than other armies, in my opinion, just due to volume of fire. And it's really hard to miss Gar battle suits with the space pineapple. So they're just really good. They're really, really a strong, interesting, and fun to play army.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've also got some. Whilst they do have some other specialist squads which can be brought in.
Hazard suits.
The hazard suits are amongst the toughest pure infantry in the game outside of the Gar themselves. They're almost certainly developed to combat Gar. You've also got the AI assault squads, who are one of the most fearsome hand-to-hand squads in the game. They have got some absolutely stupid capabilities. I don't know. It sounds a bit much, but they can either up their armor when they're in hand-to-hand, or they can use 2 shots at strike value 2 per turn in hand-to-hand.
Yeah, and those compound, correct? Like a grenade does?
Yeah, like a grenade. So if you end up with multiple hits on the same model, it becomes, rather than 2 at 2, it becomes 1 at 4, and that's very difficult to resist. Really difficult to resist. But the hazard suits themselves have got that plus plasma carbines, plus a terrible, by terrible I mean really dangerous res stat, and they're really difficult to take out. All of this lot, all the different tools though, take a bit of getting used to, because they've also got some pretty good skimmers, but they've also got that skimmer which I've shown you on the front there, which is the Avenger skimmer, which can come with a variety of different loadouts, is relatively cheap, is mod 2, so it gets 2 dice a turn. So you're sitting there trying to sort out the rest of the armor, and then along comes this heavy, sort of like it's a pretty heftily armored, I suppose, anti-tank. I don't know what's the best thing, anti-tank or anti-personnel. I don't know what to call it really. It's more like an armored car, I suppose.
Yeah.
All trades.
I love skimmers too. The light skimmers are one of my favorite units in the game. And I think I have 2, and I'm trying to repurpose one of my buddies who's not played the game in a year and a half.
COVID. So there we go. So they've got a really good selection of support options. They have got, of which their mag cannon is probably the most famous and the most useful.
Yeah.
They can get X launchers like any other squad, and they can get some of the probes, which some of the other people can get. And most importantly, which we should mention as the auxiliary option, you've got the AI medic team, which is one of the most useful units in the whole game. I can see you guys nodding there.
Yeah.
And if you can see me, you can see my... Yeah. I always try and take the medic team because great is you can give it a medic probe as well.
Yeah.
That adds its capability, but it sort of gives a saving throw to everybody within 5 inches of it. The Mediprobe can give another saving throw to everybody within 5 inches. And then what's more, these guys are armed. They are the toughest medics you will ever come across.
Like, what's the Geneva Convention?
Yeah. Look, we've got the medic sign on us. Bang. I know exactly.
Well, I think it makes sense that they do have a medic team just based on, the lore and what I've read is they don't really trust machines in the MTEL as much as the Concord do.
No.
So having manned, vehicles and things like that, rather than having the C3, Concord drones, they kind of fight it. They kind of resist it. So that makes sense that they would have a medic team. And I think that's a lot of flavor there too with storyline and stuff.
That's a really important point you make there, actually. So whilst they have got a nanosphere technology and their weapons can be powered up and communications is all provided by the nanosphere, what they do not do is trust drones and artificial intelligence, which means they do not have an IMTEL. So there's no integrated machine technology like the C3 and the rest. So they're still fairly advanced, technologically speaking, but they just do not have the, I don't know.
Trust in the machine.
Trust in the machine, yes. They do not trust in the machine in any shape, way, or form.
So it sounds like the Algoryn are the favored race or faction for the game. It's like they're the ones that are always going to be the lead faction with anything, kind of like with the other companies, Void Infantry.
I'm sure they lead everything.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
It sounds like that when anytime hey, this would be a great idea to do, they're gonna get the good stuff. They come out with a new rule that breaks everything else. Algoryn get it. Hey, look at this really cool model. Hey, I think that would be great if the Algoryn had it. And then all the other factions are then catching up, so to speak. It just sounds because
I wouldn't say so. Yeah,
I don't think that's quite. I understand where you're going. It's not quite the case. It's just that they are such a flexible militaristic force. They're the only purely militaristic force in Antares, apart from the GAR.
Yeah, they have an answer for everything. That's what
they do.
That they have. They're like the utility belt of armies, because not only do they have base infantry that is very focused on doing ranged combat well in the form of overhead fire from their launchers, special munitions, a variety of weapons that you can equip each squad leader. But then they also have infantry specific to infiltration, infantry specific to melee combat, special forces that are geared towards specific roles in combat. They have a plethora of weapons teams. So basically, whereas some of the faction have some of the kit, Algoryn has most of the kit. So you can bring everything though too. Like Tim said, it's a wargamer's dream, because if you're like me and Sergey with notebook after notebook of armies that we've built, it's kind of challenging actually, because you have so many options with the Algoryn that you can either create like a surgical strike force that has a specific mission or style that you want to accomplish, or you can kind of bring a little bit of everything, so that no matter what faction you're up against, you'll probably have an answer to. So they'd have I don't know, like Tim said, they're the most militaristic. So they bring everything to the table if they could.
They're easy to build they're easy to build like a catch-all list with. Like you don't have to worry, like with Concord, sometimes you have to worry about, I have to know how to counter Gar, and I have to know how to counter infantry. Algoryn kind of counter Gar and infantry like in one fell swoop. But they also don't have like the specialization of other armies. Like they're going to lose to Boromite in close combat most of the time. They're probably even going to lose to Gar in close combat most of the time. But then again, they might also lose in an all-out shooting match with Concord or Isaurian. So they're kind of a jack of all trades, and if you build them right, they can master pretty much anything, but they can't master everything in one army.
Yeah, but in having said that, though, they won't necessarily have the weakness that the other forces have. So, as you pointed out quite rightly, they're probably losing a shooting match against Concord. But the answer to that, from an Algoryn's viewpoint, is just get stuck in then.
Yeah.
That's how it works every time in our games. So I'll be like the Concord from like over here, and I'm like, oh, look at them over there, fire. And then Sergey's just like, I'm gonna get this close to you. And it works. And they kind of, generally speaking, too, like as far as their tech level, they have basically like the same technology when it comes to support. Their vehicles are very equivalent to the Intel societies. But the cool thing about the Algoryn is that their units are cheaper because they rely on the more, I'd say, reliable Antares tech, which is like mag weapons, reflex armor. Since they have that like natural keratin layer that gives them more toughness, they don't really see a negative to the reflex armor. Concord are great because they have hyperlight armor, which is beautiful, and it gives you +2 res, but it's less effective when you get closer. So the Algoryn player knows that, and they're like, I can't help but notice your hyperlight armor has become less effective now that I'm 5 feet away from you, and my natural toughness seems not to have been deterred whatsoever at all. They rely on reliability.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's to me, their mag weapons are their most potent, their mag support weapons are the most potent weapon. Yes, the squads are fantastic, and I have to admit to having loads of just plain AI squads because they're just so flexible.
So good.
I've got a mob. Sure, I've got a mob of hazard suits. Hasn't everybody who's got them? And I've got a few assaults, but frankly, it's the mag support weapons, whether it's from X howitzer, mag cannon, or the the mag repeaters on the not the interceptors, the sneaky little infiltrators. Yeah, thank you, the infiltrators. And all the rest of it. So the mag weapons are really potent, coupled with, exactly as you said, coupled with that really good natural armor they've got. So they become a really, really tough opponent.
With the vehicles, the mag weapons are really cool because like their tank and their transport is basically the same thing as the Intel societies, but they have the option of, instead of using plasma weaponry, to use mag light supports, twin light supports, and mag cannons, which actually brings them down in cost.
And mag heavy support as well. If you get that on something as well, it's 5 shots for SV3, and whilst it needs a fire order to go, you're still sitting there saying, "Okay, we'll take the first shot, and the second, and the third, and the fourth, and the fifth." But which time the tank who's the target of this is thinking, "Go away!"
Yeah, quantity over quality.
They also share the freeborn space of being one of the more effective armies at extreme range. Whereas Concord and Isaurian are just a fury of plasma when you get to mid range. Freeborn and Algoryn have a lot of micro X launchers, which means that they fight best either when they're stuck in with their assault troops or when they're at absolute extreme range. So if you can prevent people from getting to that middle range with them, you're going to be sitting pretty for the whole game. And if you want to play a sit back and shoot army, they function very well in that role.
Yeah, it's getting the ranges right, though, isn't it? And that's
right.
the trick. So, yes, a very capable army and a skilled wargamer can mix. So there's Matt from Southampton. Hello, Matt, if you're listening. And he is really good at having a mixed Concord armor. So he has a number of AI squads. He's got 1 or 2 assault squads, and he'll have a hazard squad with him, as well as an Avenger. And then the rest is exactly as you said, Sergey. It's the long range stuff, whether it's an X-House or a mortar or a mag cannon or whatever. It's a real mixed bag. But if you want to play Let's Stand Back and Shoot, he's quite happy.
Yeah.
Well, and they have access to spotter drones as an auxiliary choice, which is really only, I think it's only Concord, Isaurian, and then the Algoryn, which
Boar might get them too.
The Boar might get them too. Okay. Well, and anybody who has access to that, it increases the effectiveness of your overhead fires so very much, because you can patch sight for line of sight from an individual unit or weapons team or vehicle, or not, I guess, vehicle, spotter drone to another within 20 inches, which is just makes them even more insane, because like Sergey said, you can really post up at that long or extreme range, really, if you'd like to. You're doing fire orders, you're going to hit, and I mean, it can be devastating.
Yeah, it's the combination of stuff that's that works well. And that's really what you have to master with Algoryn. But if you are a experienced wargamer and you're used to adapting this sort of stuff, they're perfect for it. Which is interesting, because it reminds me of Seleucid armies in the old Wargames research game rules. If you used to have lots of wargamers having Seleucid armies, because they had a little bit of everything. But you then had newcomers coming in and trying a little bit of everything and not quite managing to make everything work together, because it's quite a challenge. And what's probably interesting is that they are so militaristic. They are in some ways much like the Romans, on which Rick originally modeled them, I suppose, because they originally thought of the Romans as sort of like just imperial. He thought of the Algoryn as pre-imperial Romans, in many ways, and that's where this
interesting
social structure comes from as well. Because one of the things we have to talk about when you talk about Algoryn is their social structure, which is they're a very caste-ridden society. So they have got 4 or 5 castes, depending on whether or not you want to class one of them as a caste or not. And right at the top, you have got the mental block.
I'm looking it up right now.
I forgot what the top one. But basically, they have got vector formation. Optimate. Thank you very much. That's the sort of like the senator. You could say the sort of like senatorial class almost, or a little bit of that with the equites, the knightly class of Rome. Then below that, you have got the vector, who are effectively, it's a military caste, everybody there is expected to do or have military service somewhere in their background. And it's that vector class from which the majority of the AI Algoryn infantry force, or the Algoryn force itself, is drawn. Beneath those, you've got the founder class, who is the general work. They do all the administration. They will do even the prosperate administration as well. So it's really their work on which the prosperate's based. And then below them, you've got servile leisure, who do bits and bobs and this, that, and the other. Beneath them, however, is a sort of, I don't know, it's not really a caste at all. It's effectively a caste of outcasts, which sounds a little bit conflicting, but they are the people who everybody else just looks down on and just says, "Who are you?" We don't count, which is quite interesting.
I imagine
Overlaid
that,
in that
is that where like a lot of like Algoryn privateers would come from? Would be that outcast caste?
The base level is the base leisure. Yeah, these castes are called leisures, and the base leisure. Yeah, there would be basically outcast vector privateers. Algoryn privateers could be from any of those leisures, but I can see a lot of base leisure people just really taking opportunity on piracy or being privateers or as mercenaries or whatever, and just trading on the fact that they're Algoryn, whether or not they've actually had any good military experience or not. So within those castes, much like the Roman system at the time, there are basically families, family groupings called mocks. They're based around a core family, but it's a very, very tight social structure where it's almost like an extended family or an extended clan, I suppose is the easiest way to put it. So you have loads of these mochs. So you have famous ultimate mochs being Jannar, as in Taras Jannar, Rak, Esmarak. You have the Durel and the Korei mochs, and these effectively act as funnels. So you then have mochs within, say, the lower level leisures, so allying themselves with each of these, some of these upper level mochs, and then that cascades down. So there's this whole influence thing overlaid vertically along this horizontal leisure or caste system. It's a fascinating and crazy society, and it's a really rich seam for mining stories if you want to. And that's why they've probably at the moment got one of the most interesting backgrounds, in that the Taras Jannar, who was their effectively commander-in-chief, has been thrown out of the Algoryn High Council, and now Esmarak has taken over, and now she's tried to take over a little bit too much power, you know, think Imperial Rome, and now a lot of the other Optimate Mochs are now banding together saying, we don't like this, she's got too much power, and they're now trying to bring Taras Jannar back as a figurehead, and but not too strong a figurehead because they don't want him to be the emperor either. So you've got this really mixed cauldron of bubbling intrigue, which is currently perhaps just on the edge of a civil war or something.
Hint.
Hint.
And they all.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. They all wear mustachios. Is all I was going to say.
I hope. They pull up their masks and it's like out to here. But no, that's really cool. I had no idea that the factions fluff was based on the Roman Empire. I absolutely have to repaint all of my Algoryn now and make auxiliary forces.
It's not based on the Empire. It's based on the whole senatorial system which came before the Empire.
Interesting.
So
see, I went very Japanese with my Algoryn. Like I gave them all bits from
Test of Honor, right?
Test of Honor, yeah. A couple of them have like katanas. This guy has got a katana.
Well, now I'm just gonna have to get some pilums and stuff like that and add them to.
That's exactly what
I know. I need to get like a gladius for my like. So something that me and Kevin talk about all the time, we never get tired of it, is how we think Algoryn are like actually super badass compared to other races, because the other races, and Kevin is the one who brought this up, so I'm totally stealing his topic subject. But so the other races have implants and cybernetics and stuff, like telling them like, oh, you're about to get punched, you should probably dodge. The Algoryn are just like bad dudes. They're just like, they don't have any machine doing anything. They're just like, all right, the super cyborg, I'm gonna punch them to death. I'm gonna continue to punch them to death until they're gone. And that's what makes them so cool. They're like they're just dudes who can fight robots and not even be fazed by it.
I think they themselves have their own level of like cybernetics and stuff, because they have nanotechnology still, but they don't rely on it. Like I think it's some fluff from Zillows. It's hilarious because it's like you have Algoryn soldiers in the jungle next to a squad of Concord soldiers in the jungle, and the Concord, their suit, their nanosphere has adjusted their physiology so that they're comfortable. They don't even like a Concord soldier stepping off of a troop transport would actually not even feel the effects of whatever environment they've been in, because the Intel knows where they're being sent and has adjusted accordingly. And Algoryn is just sitting there and you're like, is it hot? And he's like, of course it is. But about it, those Concord fluffy dudes over there with their Intels and all that stuff, they just resist, like and that's what's expected of them, of their society. And yeah, it's just really cool because they're just they're ultra warriors. I mean, it's so much so that they talk about Algoryn society like even children can use weapons like reliably at like an early age.
Okay, what did you get him for his christening present? Look, it's a plasma.
It's a carbine.
Silver-plated plasma carbine. Oh, thank you so much. He'll treasure that for the rest of his life.
If somebody wants to get me a silver-plated plasma carbine for Christmas, go for it. I would love that.
How fun it will be, but
it's what he always wanted.
Sergey, you will shoot your eye out. No.
And then the cool thing I've always liked about the Algoryn Prospera is that it does, like, I mean, there's those core worlds, but it is quite a large empire. I mean, it has 300 worlds or something like that, you said, in their entirety. And it's cool because we've seen a lot of conversions on the Intel, because it does talk about how they do incorporate other races of, like, I think there's aliens in there too, and other panhumans in their military force. So from like a modeling standpoint, you literally could make auxiliary forces if you wanted to, and just use like counts as and make an AI squad of, you know, different kinds of models, which would be interesting. And I think that's really cool about their army. Yeah,
you can certainly do that, and actually sort of like having founder formations coming in, saying, "Here, we want to go." You know? Let's see what we're doing. Here we go. I've got a sort of like I've got a couple of things here, which I'll pull up as my avatar. Oh, I can't pull up as my avatar.
You can share your screen, and I can share it with everybody.
Okay, I could do that. Let's do that then. Let's see what I can do. Hold on a minute. Don't share my screen yet, and I will.
Oh, I'm not. You let me know when you're ready, and I will do that.
Yeah. So carry on talking amongst yourselves whilst I look at these wonderful things.
So, a quick question, and maybe this has been discussed previously, and I just didn't catch it. And by previously, I mean on previous shows. Is the universe of Gates of Antares our universe in the far future?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, it is an extrapolation of many thousands of years into the future, where if you draw a line back, somebody will eventually draw their line back to Matt and his soulless child.
I can see that means you. No, yeah. So basically, Antares time is at some point on the edge of our solar system. humans discovered the first gate, which attaches them to led them rather to the entire nexus, like network of gates. And the way they gauge time is it can be several hundred, several thousands of years, but the gate, for whatever reason, collapses. And what happens is that gates along the entire nexus just start to slowly disappear left and right, isolating every world from the entire nexus. And so basically, my rabbits are throwing everything around.
Rabbits?
I got some rabbits. Not gonna lie, they're adorable.
Is this for lunch?
Right? No, they're adorable. How dare you? No. So when
where's my Hassenpfeffer?
Whole new
there's like a period of dozens, maybe hundreds of years where you can't access that network anymore, and so they label those as ages. And we are currently in the 7th age of entire space. So yeah, thousands and thousands and thousands of years in the future, but you could still trace everything back.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly right.
So is there is the gate for the solar system in the game world right now, is it currently closed to Earth? Or could the guard go stomping down and say, "Hey, look, let's get off the I-95 to exit 47 to go stomp Earth."
3 left past that really sweet Boromite taco stand, and you're gonna go.
Tacos.
So spicy.
Yeah,
they've lost the gate to old Earth, and it may well have been destroyed. It may well have just gone. It may well have just Earth itself may now just be a smoking wreck, which is why Antares never again opens its way to it. So old Earth has been lost, just like Borum has been lost. So people keep looking for it, and
too, when you're done.
Whether or not they'll find it is, it's an open question. It's just not being found now, and Earth has not been. Old Earth has not been found for many, many thousands of years. So way back in perhaps the 2nd or 3rd age, I think it was believed destroyed.
All right.
And a good thing to note too, though, for you, Not Jay, is that not only is it, I guess, it'd be devastating for society because you're cut off from everything else. But when the gates all do collapse, when they reopen, what everybody finds is that all of because the locations like good God, the locations are set on the entire surface, but they get shuffled and changed positions with every single time that they are reopened. Oh, yeah. So Earth's location could have just as easily been lost in the shuffle.
So the gate for Earth might not be the same gate.
Well, it would be the same gate, not the same location.
The gates are always the same, so you still get a gate from Antares.
So I'm still getting exit 37, but exit 37 might not be on I-95 anymore. No. It's now on the 215.
Yep.
Correct. Okay. Absolutely.
And then triangle, square, squiggly mark.
Yeah. It's more like that exit is like on the Autobahn now, and you're like just completely lost in the middle of Germany.
Right. Okay. I'm just, and then the Nexus is kind of like a universe within a universe, and that's where everything is happening, is in the Nexus, or is the Nexus the thoroughfare to get from one place to another, and you're actually in real space, so to speak?
You're actually in the Nexus.
You
are in real space. Your travel is via the Nexus. So the Nexus, you could say, is a motorway network with nothing else on it but motorways. And signposts saying take the next left to Borum or take the next left to Sergey's t-shirt, whatever is on it. I can't see what's on it at the moment. But
The Miniac, it's a
You
YouTuber that
then-
I really like.
cool. you then jump into that gate, and then it'll take you out to the star
Okay.
system at the other end of that gate.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next
so-
is like your hyperlanes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's the point around which you travel. Many more Watts, for example, has just asked what happens if the gate closes whilst in travel to a destination, and the actual answer is no one knows, because they've never been able to talk to anybody to find out what happened when they were in the gate
Actually,
when it
Sean,
closed.
Rick Priestley's root cellar.
He pops out in Rick
One of
Priestley's
the-
root cellar. Nice.
Yeah, quite likely. Yeah, one of the big problems is that the gates, whilst they open in along a timeline in the local universe, i.e., for example, in Earth, you'll find different gates opening at different times to the Nexus, perhaps 100 years apart or 1,000 years apart or whatever. What that means in terms of everybody else is absolutely nothing. So everybody else could be open, have a gate open into them, have a gate open into their system at, say, 0 AD, and then it closes at 100 AD, and the next gate could open at, say, 1000 AD, and actually be open in the 7th age. So they've missed out something like 27,000 years of Antarian life, because they've skipped the 2nd to the 6th ages.
What happens in the gate stays in the gate.
What happens in the gate stays in the gate. Yeah. So it's so that's it. The gate closed. So effectively, when you're in a gate and it closes, you might get ejected at the other end when you got there. You may get dropped out halfway along it in time and space, and you've got no idea, or you may just get destroyed. But at the moment, they've not found anybody to know about it.
Okay, so, and pardon my noobishness here,
No, that's fine. It's great.
but
You.
quite more noob. So again, let's go. We're on Earth. 0 AD. Gate opens up, and we're in, say, the 2nd age of Antares time. Then the gate closes back down at 100 AD.
Yep.
Let's say 2050.
Yep.
The same gate opens, or a different gate opens?
Well, from Earth's perspective, it will be exactly the same gate, because it will be located in exactly the same place, about 40 AU from the sun, and on a line between the sun and what we think of it as Antares, the star, which is actually this great machine which powers all this network.
Okay. So Antares isn't really a red giant. It's this gargantuan device that's the engine running this show. Okay, good. So
Jason Hall's question there. He says, and Antares is the machine engine that powers it all?
Correct.
Exactly
go.
Exactly what Chris has just said. So there you go, not Jay.
All right, so then it pops open again, and although 2,045 years has passed on Earth, in the Nexus, it could have been thousands of more years, or is it still the same timeline?
It could be even less.
Okay. So there's some sort of time dilation or extension within the gate itself. So if we were to take a ship, say the Dragon X, and shoot through, go through the gate, and we're just humming along, and Sergey says, "Man, I got to get something to eat," and we pop off on exit 42. We're back in real space in the same universe as Earth. However, although it's only been, say, 15 years of our time in the Nexus, it could have been 4,700 years out in the real universe.
Yeah. I was actually, whilst you're speaking, I was trying to look for another example. So I'm loading up a PowerPoint presentation here with
Yay.
examples.
Oh boy,
Maybe.
it's like work.
Dear, terrible.
Got to Zoom with PowerPoint.
Let's PowerPoint these questions into oblivion.
Mini Mormont says, wow, so Bill and Ted can get stuck in a telephone booth for quite a while. Yes, they can.
Ooh, and real quick, I wanted to Jason Hall asked, are there Algoryn mechs?
Mercs.
And
Mercs.
exactly, oh, I can't
Mercs.
read. Absolutely, there is.
There are lots of
Yeah,
Algoryn
mechs.
mechs. There should be Algoryn mechs. That
So-
would be awesome.
You could totally model one and just count it as a tank, and it would be super dope.
Yep.
Yeah, what the great thing about a resin printer is,
He can do that.
Here we go.
you could
Right.
you could do that.
Right. New slide.
I assume this is all still about Algoryn, Jason Hall says. Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah.
it's all pertain.
Yeah.
And Jason says, I'll make a Mac.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so getting back to the Algoryn,
Mm-hmm.
they seem to be very, and I guess this makes sense if they're based off of a Roman hierarchy.
Yeah.
They seem they're analogous to the Romulans in Star Trek, where everything is at
Just
least
less
with
backstabbing.
well, yeah, right. Well, I don't know, Caesar.
Thank you. Nice response. Not Jay.
But what my point is with bringing up the Romulans is their entire, and also the Klingons, their entire structure, their entire economic being, so to speak, is surrounded and infused with the military.
Yes.
At least that's what it sounds like.
Algoryn
It's
themselves.
the reason why the Algoryn exist is to conquer and maintain as much property as possible. And to do that, they have to just pour everything they've got into the military to be able to keep
Yeah.
Yep.
their stuff going.
They took the total
Yeah,
war concept of like
bit
World War
more-
II and we're just like, forever. Let's just keep going with that.
It's a bit more subtle than that. I find, because it's very much a case that they don't actually remember. They've only got 12 planets out of the 300 that are actually in the Prosperate. So they're not necessarily conquering everything, whilst they're extending their influence by controlling or protecting the trade, which the other 300 core members of the Prosperate.
Well, just what you guys are talking about, I ran across something while rereading about the Algoryn, and this paragraph absolutely what you're talking about, not Jay, and what we're talking about describes it perfectly. In the main rule book, it's page 219 if you guys want to look it up. The other great advantage that the Algoryn have is that they are a military society with a strong warrior ethic that permeates the entire population. Men and women share in the burden of defense, and even Algoryn children are proficient with the basic weapons from early age. This contrasts strongly with both Concord and Isorian societies, where they only a tiny appropriation of the population are ever taken into military service. So everybody fights in Algoryn. Everybody.
Yep. Even Servile Ledger will have basic militia training, but they won't that be good at. Founder Ledger will have some pretty good militia training and will have served actively for a few years in the defense organizations on whichever world they're actually based, whether it's an Algoryn world, whether it's a Prosperate world, Prosperate member world.
So they can actually be more considered ancient Greece than ancient Rome when it comes to the military.
It's almost like Sparta in some
Yeah.
ways, except
Yeah, we're
yeah.
every male child born,
And
they
female.
know, right? But
That's
they
why my
know
hazard suit,
they're
big
they're
shield.
going to be a warrior of some nature in some way or shape or form for some period of time before they go on to, if they survive, go on to be something else. Because I'm assuming that the Algoryn don't go out and hire other life forms to build their stuff. It's all, the Algoryn build their weapons, they build their machines, they harvest their crops, all within themselves. They don't go out and say, "Hey, Boramites, come here and mine our ore." They might, I don't know.
That'd be,
But-
they have the servile ledger, I believe, does most of that.
So,
Yeah.
and there's a level within the rank system of, okay, sorry guys, you're too short, too fat, too skinny, whatever. Go pick corn.
Well, and it's a trust issue too, because the reason why their empire is not like gigantic and they're not necessarily like actively conquering a bunch of stuff is because they find themselves between a rock and a hard place. Like Tim said earlier, the Gar are like showing up on the southern border, right? And they are actually hilariously underdeveloped as far as technology, but just super brutal in the way they, come after everybody. Unrelenting style, but they also have the Intel societies of the Concord and the Isaurian. And like you said, they have to do everything themselves because literally if someone walks up and is like, I just got a new smartphone, and Isaurian sold it to me, and they're like, wait a second, are you on my Wi-Fi? Ah! That Concord society could just, like the advanced Intel is so aggressive that they have to protect their own nanospore from that.
So they don't have as an advanced Intel system as the other.
Human.
And is that something that they have actively said we're not? So, and I'm pulling from other IPs. So very much like Adama with Battlestar Galactica. We're not going to have a network on the ship because bad things could happen.
Actually pretty good amount, and it's because it's like, for instance, the Algoryn vehicles, like the skimmer Tim was showing, whereas a Concord or an Isaurian, those high Intel societies would most likely have a drone that is, armed with a support weapon and going in to kind of protect that human element because they are benevolent AI empires. The Algoryn rely more on that pan-human aspect. You see every vehicle they have, even if it's not modeled, actually has drivers, like their Bastion heavy tank, which is so beautiful. You actually have two drivers on there. So, but it's not to say that they do not have any artificial intelligence. Let's say an Algoryn tank takes a really bad hit and like the tank crew gets knocked around and like hits their head. They do have AI that can step in and kind of take over a little bit as far as autopilot, but it's just like an honor bound system. And I'm sure they're paranoia from the other advanced nanotechnology societies that they just don't rely on it. They don't want to.
Yeah, they do have the capability of doing that, though. Like they are technologically advanced. They just choose.
They have. It's a choice.
Like if you pick up an Algoryn mag gun, I'm sure the nanosphere that surrounds their weaponry wouldn't allow a non-Prosperate or a non-Algoryn panhuman to operate them. But it's not, the gun will not require as much, I guess, in that sense.
Their mag guns as a whole wouldn't require normally require a nanosphere to operate at all, so that they can actually operate on worlds which don't have any nanosphere, so they can just drop onto some form of back world forested moon of a gas giant or something, and just pick up a box of mag guns which they've got and fire, because they don't need intelligence, they don't need anything else. What they'll have is they'll plug it into their suits and they'll go from there, if you see what I mean.
Excellent.
I've got a few slides here if you want to show them, Matt. It's up to you.
Sure. Floor is yours, and for our podcasters, we'll describe it as best we can.
Can you see it or not? I can't see
No,
it.
I see
Green.
it's just a black screen. I can't even say it's. Oh my God, it's full of stars at this point.
Okay. What I will do then is I'll try again.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Many Warmuts, meanwhile, says, are the Saurians and the Algoryns arch enemies?
I would say they're arch enemies.
More Gar, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that they oppose that high level of technology from the MTEL Society means that they
There we go.
definitely don't want anything to do with them. Oh, that's a sweet map.
That is super cool.
Yeah, so as you can see on the map, I don't know if you can see my pointer, but the Algoryn
Yes,
Prosperous is at the sort of like north end of the determinate, and it's not as dense as you can see the Isaurians who are off to the right, or the Concord who are off to the left, but it's all sorts of like patches which are made up of the member worlds, and those are world centers, you should say, because those worlds will have their own subordinate worlds to them in the determinate. So you may have way more than 300 worlds, but there's 300 worlds with whom the Prosperous is focused. And then you'll also have the actual Algoryn worlds, and you can see should be about 12 of those red dots who are actually the Algoryn worlds themselves, and they share the centers. Zyra off to one side is the one that was lost to the Isaurians.
Yeah, they blew it up. Algoryn blew it up, didn't they?
If we can't have it, you're not going to have it either.
Yeah, that's
I'm
probably
just
the
gonna
most.
take my ball home. I'm going to take my ball and go home.
That's probably the most grim, dark story in Antares, really. That they so I'm assuming they were like still citizens and whatnot on the planet when they blew it up.
May well have been, but there's loads of people who escaped and who stay behind to try and cover everybody else's escape from the planet. And there's a whole division who still rely on their reputation as being the last survivors of Zyra. I don't think there are now people anymore actually on Zyra. It's just a wasted planetary surface, though the Isaurians may be trying to repopulate it. But I wouldn't be surprised if it dropped off the map sooner or later. But anyway, as you can see, you've got this thing of the Gar coming up to the south of Algoryn, and they're impinging on Algoryn space here, there, and everywhere. And the Gar, if you look, Gar Empire looks a little bit runny in places because basically they just hop from world to world looking for one which isn't quite as advanced as any others, which they can just go down, take the pickings, take all the spoils, and then destroy and leave as a wasted world behind them. And that's what the Algoryn are trying to fight against, I suppose, is the best way of.
The Gar sound absolutely horrible.
Oh, look at this. The political organization. Beautiful.
There we go. This is ultimate PowerPoint, isn't it? It's death by PowerPoint.
I'm so into it. This is so cool.
Yeah. So you've got the Algoryn High Council, who's basically got a primacy as the first councillor. He's not. You can't consider him an emperor. That's currently Foran Durrell, and he's rather being heavily torn apart by the progressives and the traditionalists, which are the two factors. It's just similar to a speaker or a chairperson rather than president, as it says up there in the box. He needs a substantial majority to get there. And at the moment, the big problem is that Foran Durrell probably needs replacing him, but you can't get substantial majority when you've got a house that is so divided as it is in terms of the Algoryn High Council. And in the Algoryn High Council, you've got the key representatives from the Prosperate Council. If you see that on the left, here we go, there. Prosperate Council, which is on the left. And that includes memberships from all 300 worlds, including any of the alien species. And your key representatives from there go into the High Council. And oddly, the only people who manage to get onto the High Council are, well, I don't know, Algoryn. And
Who would have thought?
who'd have thought? So there's a fair amount of AI, military, and SD up there. And the main person in charge, of course, who's in charge of the SD is Esmarak. Boo!
Boo!
Ooh.
Yeah.
Actually,
So-
I think I like them more.
So the Prosperate Council governs the local governors, the Wumpa Worlds, and the local militia and the native troops, and also theoretically the local bureaucracy. But you've got this complex web, because whilst the Prosperate Council has got a nominal authority over the Prosperate military, including the AI and generals, in actual fact, the Prosperate military will just say, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, and then they'll wait for us to hear what the Algoryn High Council says before doing anything. And that's even more so the case of Special Division in terms of Esmarak and her high-tech research and all the rest of it. And then at the bottom, you've got the local bureaucracy on the worlds, which is dominated really by Algoryn Founder Leisure members. So if you went down to any of the local worlds, the 300 worlds in the Algoryn Prosperate, you'd find that ultimately there is this extremely efficient militia who at one point is just a guy behind a desk saying, no, you need form B555C signed in triplicate with your mother's maiden name on it before she got...
Still has a handgun, for sure.
Yeah. And next moment he'll step out behind his desk with a handgun saying, look out behind you, bang. You know.
They're like, welcome to Algoryn Law School. Now, first, I can't help but notice you don't have a gun. So we're going to resolve that real quick. Now, Tim, I want to ask, so Mini Worma asked if there's going to be individual mini Algoryn mocks, like the leaders. We have two of them. It's Jannar and Esmarak, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, Darrell's another one, and then you've got Foray, which is another one, and then of course there was the great Mock, Optimate Mock, who was thrown out, whose name you should never utter, so I'll say it. It's the Marek, who are now just wombling around the Determinate as a sort of almost like a freeborn house, except the freeborn don't like them either, because they're snotty Optimate Algoryns. But the trouble is, when you get an Optimate Mock go out, they'll also have going out with them a lot of the mocks from the leisures below. So you'll get a fair few vector mocks get thrown out and a fair few founder mocks having to go out with them because they're so closely allied to that Optimate Mock, the Marek. So the Marek's pretty big, except they're now just on a few backward planets, living from ship to ship and that sort of stuff.
The redheaded stepchild. Sorry.
Yeah, what I said to say. I think Not Jay asked about this. Not Jay asked about this earlier, and this is a little bit about that time thing. So if you look on the left, you can look Erenyal system. So they all start off, say, on the third age, and then the Erenyal system. You can see the Erenyal gate collapses round about the same time as the Antares collapses, and then box check gate collapses all round about the same time, probably within about a few years. Then Antares starts reconnecting itself, as the red line in the middle. It starts reconnecting all the systems of interest to it. It's quite intelligent. It only connects interesting systems, which are typically those with living people on it, living civilizations. And then if you look down here, in about Antares year, whatever age it was, 150, it connected to Erenyal, but 1200 years had a collapse on Erenyal. So Erenyal was basically 1200 years in the future of when it last had a gate, and it then finally gets a reconnection to Antares. But later, around about Antares year 300, Antares then connects to Boxjet, but effectively it connects back to Boxjet only 50 years after the last gate collapse. Is that clear?
So, well,
Not
hold
Jay
on.
just throws up in the back.
I'm picking up what you're putting down here, but how does the Well, I guess it really doesn't matter because you're only playing during a single age. But what my thought is how do you reconcile the technological differences due to the amount of time that has lapsed in a single system as it has been turned on and turned off? In other words,
well, effective.
So for instance, let's say this one here, the Arignal system.
Yep.
Let's say, we're at 0 AD where all those gates collapse.
Yep.
The Arignal system will have gone through 1,200 years of technology. So think of the technological differences between 0 AD and 1,200 AD on Earth.
Yep.
And the Boxchet system is 50 years? So while they're still, pounding with rocks and swords and whatnot, the Arignal system has got gunpowder.
Yeah.
How does that get reconciled?
It's interesting because they're depending on which system it is, the technology kind of keeps going, because sometimes when the gate reopens and you get to see, where that particular system is at, maybe it's gone into the Dark Ages and is back to sticks and stones. Whereas sometimes the societies can advance in technology quite a bit. Because correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, but sometimes, these different societies kind of possess unique and interesting and sometimes advanced technologies for the age.
Right.
Absolutely. So it's not reconciled is the answer. It's exactly as Sergey said. It's no, sorry, that was Kevin, wasn't it? I couldn't see him.
Yes, sorry.
So
exactly
I guess a perfect analog on Earth is, we've got people. Let's say somebody from the United States goes down into the deep dark jungles of Brazil and find a tribe that has literally never had contact with anybody outside of their 100 square kilometers.
Mm-hmm.
Still wearing, bat cloaks that they got from those giant that live down there.
Bat cloaks.
And blow dart guns that are dodged up with the tree frog poison. Okay. And it's just that's the way
and
it
it's
is.
exactly what you've. That's probably what you've got with places like Maghreb, for example. So somewhere in the past, Maghreb was settled by humans. It then got disconnected, and it looks like its whole society collapsed because it didn't have the infrastructure or the resources to actually keep going, keep developing as a technological society. So its people there have become largely what Antares called feral, but they've which actually means basically backwards. It's a very patronizing term, really, which just means backwards compared to the rest of us.
So Mississippi in the United States and the Orkneys in the UK.
It's Norfolk in the UK.
Okay.
And I'm ever so sorry if there's anybody. Ever so sorry if there's anybody in Norfolk listening, but I'm trying to get a complex.
We're gonna get a bunch of angry letters for this one.
We will, yeah.
Bring it.
But basically, when things are reconnected to a system, doesn't matter what age it is, it's always in the future of that system. So time progresses forward in each of the connected systems, even though as far as Antares time goes, it could be a system is reconnected in the past of another system of another local system, if you see what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
As we've got here with Boxchet and Arignal. It's one of the things, what the question you asked though is really pertinent, because that development between the collapses, so is sometimes when things really happen. So Isori was not connected for Antares for 2,000 or 3,000 years. When it was reconnected, the rest of Antares found that firstly, Isori had created a real space empire because they developed a space drive that could actually get them close to about 90% of the speed of light, perhaps 95% of the speed of light. And secondly, that means that they've actually established a real space empire, connected to nearby stars. And by nearby, I mean within 50, 60 light years, that sort of stuff. So they've got a real space empire. And in order to manage that real space empire, they've developed the intel.
Mm-hmm.
So the Isaurians then established the Panhuman Concord, which then broke out. And then the Isaurians' real space empire got attacked by the Tsan. And then the Tsan effectively, I suppose that you could say their intel got corrupted by the Tsan, except it was more a case of the Isaurians' own fault because they tried to adapt their intel to dominate the Tsan. And then you get the separation because the Isaurian own intel began taking over their own Panhuman Concord intel, began spreading out, which is what we've got at the moment. So that's why, if you like, you've got Panhuman Concord with their intel, who see the Isaurians' intel as being just, you're wrong, you're a virus.
Versus iOS on a big scale.
Oh goodness me!
So-
It's just
Who are quote unquote the Earthlings? Who
All of them. They're all the Earthlings.
They all came from Earth. They're
except for the Boromites, of course.
No Boramites too.
Bormites are also
Yep.
human.
Okay.
Pretty
They were
much just the Viri.
Weird.
yeah. So Algoryn, Boromites, all the panhuman morphs came from humanity, who all came from Earth. So Earth exploded in the first stage. Earth exploded onto the Antares surface. We're pretty fast breeding compared to some of the other species. We're inquisitive little buggers, and we can actually be quite aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
we went out and we just exploded
So
across the Antares.
we are eons upon eons upon eons into the future here. I mean, it's just not like
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
not like a couple of thousand or even 10,000
No.
years. We're talking millennia.
Probably
Of millennia.
we think it may be as little as 27 to 35,000 years, but yeah, I mean it's 35,000 years.
So
You can
we're
imagine what
well
population-
past June in the year 10,191.
Yeah.
And we could be well past the 41st millennium also.
Correct.
If need be, yes.
Well, and that's why I've always loved the fluff for Antares, because it's high science fiction. I've always been a fan of high science fiction, like Doctor Who, Star Trek, and it's I think it's a nice evolution of the concept, because instead of you go out in entire space and every species you run into is just humans with a different nose or something like that, and it makes no sense. It makes perfect sense because it's just saying that it's like where we are at in the timeline. You are running around and seeing human like, and they're not aliens, but they're human like, in the sense that they all have that base genetic similarity. But since so much time has passed and there's so much high technology in the form of, like with the Bormites, there's genetic manipulation. With the Gar, there's genetic manipulation. Those little goblin dudes at one point had 5 fingers and 5 toes, even though they have T-Rex feet now. And that's just really cool because you can have so many. Yeah, there you go, Sergey. It's so hard to find.
Yeah,
And so
it's
so
not going to
cool.
focus. It's too small.
Yeah, you can have panhumans with extra eyes. You can have panhumans with chitinous, like, crusting on their, bodies. You could have panhumans with multiple arms, multiple legs, avian. Like, it's just the sky's the limit, because it depends on, if humans settled a planet and that is a high gravity world, 10,000 years in the future, you can come back and all of a sudden you have space dwarves. And it's just because that's just the development of it. And it really, like, even with the Algoryn, I mean, like, you have the base models. Now, I know our audience was asking about the militia members.
Yep.
You could absolutely model a bunch of different stuff. You could model human auxiliary warriors for them. You could model alien auxiliary warriors with them. You could have, exactly. Yeah. You could, come back with your reflex shield or upon it.
Yeah, my talking about Algoryn. I love talking to you guys, especially about Beyond the Gates of Antares and just the fluff and stuff like that. It really gives me a sense like I'm having trouble. I painted the Bastion and I did a video for it for the Algoryn. I painted this green scheme, and then I was looking at other people's stuff and I go, oh man, no, I like this color better. Oh, I might like this color better. And some of the stuff that's being put into the Facebook group right now, some of the guy who's doing the blue Algoryn, I don't know if you see that. It looks wonderful. And talking about the fluff and stuff, just like my cool jazz Bormites, I'm already getting a sense of how or what I'm going to do. I'm going to repaint the Bastion. I'll probably do another video for it. But I think I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm gonna kind of Spartan-y Roman them up. Not so much red, not so much black. And there's a cattail in Ache's camera there.
It's an Isaurian tentacle.
I think really, listening to the fluff and listening and us talking it out and things like that, I think it's important if you are building an Algoryn force, which I know Justin Bruce and a lot of other guys who are, gives them kind of an idea of what kind of color, what kind of paint scheme, what kind of theme they want to do. And that's really what I love about Antares, Beyond the Gates of Antares, because there's so many things you can do and it's so customizable. And the community's like, that's cool. It's not one of those things where it's, why the heck did you do that? That's not, it's the story. And that's what I love about it. And Algoryn were the first ones I started with, next to Concord and stuff like that with the Strike on Car 9. And I've struggled ever since to try to find the perfect paint scheme I'm absolutely happy with. I've tried 3. I've tried red, I've tried a green, I've tried a blue. I didn't
my black armor so bad. I literally said something about it, and Rick himself commented on it and was like, "Never go backwards, be forwards." Now I'm like, damn it! If I repaint them, they will be cursed.
Didge here says, "I'm really torn on what color scheme would be the most appropriate skin tone."
I went with green and blue. I went with 2 different sort of sub races of Algoryn.
I love that leader. He's like, with
yeah.
He really wants to live and let
running
live
into battle with open arms and an upside down torso because I wasn't paying attention when I modeled him.
Lovely. Well, I think with it sounds like with Didge's question, it doesn't matter what's most appropriate because you can do
anything,
literally whatever you want. There's no, being that everybody has basically, except for the viri, they all have a base genetic code of human. You literally see millions and billions on Earth today of differentiation. So you can literally, every single race could literally have every single color combination.
Yeah, that's actually something that Kevin turned me on to doing a lot.
I'll add to that. Sorry, go. Oh, sorry.
You go, Tim. Yeah.
I'll add to that, not Jay, and say you're absolutely right. But what Antares has, which we don't have, is actually surface rephenotyping. So you can actually have people who, for some reason, it's the trend this year to have metallic blue skin. And there's no reason on a few worlds within the Concord, let's everybody have handlebar mustaches. So.
If there was a ray gun that you could just shoot yourself with and give yourself handlebar mustaches,
absolutely.
The pinnacle of technology.
So that's the thing. So the studio is basically given the core colors. So it's slightly greenish skin for the keratin laden Algoryn. It's a very pale color for the pallid sun-hating Gar. You've got a mix of colors for all the other factions whenever you actually see them. So it really is, as Not Jay says, you can either go with human coloring, or you can even go with, oh, this world had its blue periods between 1310, 1320.
I will say, as far as like painting technique, like I always like to have variety in the models, because literally, it just adds so much. And so with my freeborn, I had every skin tone from light to dark. And when you see a unit that has that variety, it's such a natural thing that the organic aspect of varying the skin tone of your army is awesome, because it actually makes it look more grounded in reality, and you're more inclusive in the hobby, which is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you painted some of my you painted my Terrace Calamon. Was it you who painted my Terrace Calamon, Matt? Yeah, you did. He painted my Terrace Calamon, and Terrace looks like has got that Mediterranean sort of like colouring. The Boromite is it just looks one of the standard Boromite rocky colourings. I don't know if it's red or grey. I can't remember what you actually did. And then the woman is obviously from somewhere in Nigeria, perhaps, or Northern Africa, and they look fantastic.
And it really does add like an element of realism. Like it looks weird looking at a squad and they're all like completely racially homogenous. Like it doesn't look real.
Yeah, and I do that with my historical figures too. Like
that makes sense for that.
I've got my 15 millimeter modern U.S. infantry. There's like 4 or 5 different shades of flesh tone that I'm using there, because well, we all don't look the same. I mean, Sergey here is a pasty white.
If we're running a scale, I'm all the way on one end.
Scale.
Kevin's got kind of a ruddy complexion. Matt is well, he's looking jaundiced.
You just drinking pond water, a little Jardia, never hurted anybody.
Yeah. So
I'm out in the sun all the time. So
yeah. So you're gonna have a
I've got driver's arm. See how one's darker?
Yeah. So I mean, that's just goes to it's just the way it is. It needs to be that way.
Yeah, and going back to it does. Sorry.
Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was just saying, I was linking this in with Didier's question about, I was thinking the Narn from B5. In some ways, I think the Algoryn are the other way round. The more influence they have, the higher up they are in society, the more they want to demonstrate that they are the true Algoryn. So they're more likely to try and look like the perfect Algoryn colouring, whereas lower down in the servile ledgers, they're just going to think, "Oh, I can't be bothered today. I caught a little bit too much sun and I've now turned purple. Oh well, I'll just go into work anyway." Whereas, in the Optimates, if they went in purple, people would be saying, "You don't look very Algoryn, do you, today? I can't trust you in this upcoming vote, can I?" So there's that sort of snobbishness. There's a real cultural, I don't know, introversion, I suppose is the way. That's up at the higher levels, because they're all trying to outdo themselves as to how ultimately Algoryn they are, which is what's led to this ironically what's led to this civil war, because you've got the traditionalists who are actually open to talking to people and dealing with people like the Concord, and yet you've got the progressives who are open to dealing with people like the Concord, but who are technologically very traditional, very conservative. No, let's not touch any of this advanced tech. Whereas you've got the traditionalists who are actually highly the head of the traditionalists is Esmeralda. She's heading up the SD, for goodness sake, the special advanced technology division of the Prosperate. But they do not want to deal with anyone other than Algoryn. If you're not Algoryn, you don't count.
Ooh, I have a question for you, Tim, as far as background. So on Algor itself, like you said, there's like seasons of intense radiation that they have to avoid, and as such, they have like extensive underground cities and whatnot.
Yeah.
Does that culturally travel to the other worlds, or they just like naturally, like, you know, they got 3 levels above and they're like, well, I mean, I have obviously 4 levels of basement. Like, is that a common thing? Do they have a lot of subterranean construction?
They have massive amount of subterranean construction because that's one from which they're based. But now, of course, they've got a lot of surface constructions as well, which are well shielded from the sun. They've probably even got some form of isodomes projected from the planet on certain areas, so you could get the impression of going out into the open air, even though the harsh radiation of Algor's sun is pouring down onto where you are, but you're protected by these isodomes.
Nice.
So it's definitely loads and loads of underground or subterranean dwellings, but supplemented by some more modern surface dwellings as they expand and have developed over the last 1,300 years or so.
So they would be quite adept at combating Gar in their subterranean cities, which is an amazing concept.
Yeah, it's interesting. Except, of course, not all Algoryns actually live underground. Only the ones on Algor. The others on the other planets are just thinking, "Oh, this is nice and balmy, and it's only 40 degrees in the shade. Isn't that nice?" Sorry, that's 40 degrees centigrade, which is probably about 103, I think, in the shade in your money.
I was thinking that's like kind of uncomfortably cold.
True Algoryn, they're like, it feels great outside.
Yeah, perhaps 105, something like that. So it's, they happily live wherever they are, but they just obviously don't suffer the same consequences when exposed to radiation. And that comes into some of the scenarios, especially in it's mentioned in Drone Scourge, but it's mentioned a lot in Crisis Shard as well.
And if you guys have a chance, read the background information on the Algoryn in the main rule book and the storylines throughout the books. They're absolutely fantastic. Fantastic read. There's a lot of information there. And then go over to the Nexus, which is online, and check out the stuff there, because there's even more there.
There's a bunch of like Civil War content on the Nexus. Yeah.
It's a great read if you have some time, of course, which we all do.
That's fantastic.
Sit at home, But I even searched before we went on this podcast today. Is I was just looking around on the Nexus, and I could not believe the amount of information that was on there about the Algoryn and everything, as a matter of fact, and paint schemes, So if you're really stuck on what you want to do, have a look around, because I always need some sort of reference material, or something like that to do, to paint up my stuff, and color wise, whether they're the actual model itself or something else, I always have to have something to look at and go, oh, okay, I'm gonna paint it like that.
Yeah.
But I encourage you guys to go over to the Nexus, check that out, and read about the Algoryn if you want to know more information too. So do you guys have anything else? Any other questions?
I would say after this, with the fluff of this conversation, your Board My Army absolutely needs to have a custom terrain piece called Rocco's Tacos. Extra granite bits.
Yep, it's like a jazz and taco lounge.
Yes. Like ashtrays with smoking cigarettes and stuff.
And they all hold their cigarettes like this.
Yeah.
I gotta write that down.
Yeah.
Rocco's Tacos.
Yeah.
It's obvious. It's the third gate past the the determinant. On the left.
You can't miss it. You can't miss it.
Rocco's Tacos. You bet.
It's like a real anxious kind of gathering, because everybody wants to partake. So you got the historians at the table, using proboscis.
Now,
This is where we have to go. Doop 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 doop. Will you doop,
Wait, we don't own the rights to that song.
Yeah.
No, quick question. Do all of the different factions, being that they are based on humanity, do they all see light in the same way, or are they color shifted one way or the other?
Depends on the individuals. Obviously, the San have got a very strong pheromonal. Those are the 8-legged Isaurians. They've got a very strong pheromonal sense. The Hantale have got a third eye, which is deliberately being engineered to be sensitive to multiple spectrums.
What's wrong with that third eye?
Yeah, that's the third eye, absolutely. And
So if you poke it, would they be third eye blind?
oh, goodness me. Right, Digits just asked us those diagrams, charts on the Nexus, and the answer is no. And I shouldn't really have shown them, probably because they are at version 2 previews.
Scandal on the podcast.
There's a sweet printable
terrible, but I'm not working. So,
what'd you say, Kevin?
I said there's a sweet. I'm pretty sure Tim created it. It's the printable globe.
Oh, it's super cool.
Now,
yeah,
definitely don't use super glue on regular paper. I basically glued myself to everything that day, but it's super cool.
Okay.
Yeah,
we're going to swing around back to super glue and paper, but do we know who built Antares?
the gate builders.
Okay.
Who we don't know much about.
That's it. That's all we really know about them, apart from that they
so
have got
kind of like in Star Trek, the progenitors. And
yeah.
that's why everybody looks the same, but with turtles strapped to their foreheads.
Yeah, except of course the differences in Antares, that we know that there were races who were around Antares before humans turned up. I mean, it could be that the Vol, who we haven't yet seen, they could have been around before humans turned up. But there are other races, spaceborne races, who were and are still wandering around Antares at the moment in space, but who just think, what, 7th age? What do you mean? No, it's the 15th. So it's
okay, so it's the 7th age by human reckoning.
Oh yeah, but of course, humans being humans, everything just counts for them. Yeah.
Well, humans being humans, like Americans being Americans. They're like, history didn't exist before 1776.
And the Patriot was historically accurate.
Are you telling me Mel Gibson isn't a historian?
Have you not watched any of our shows?
That's a little bit of an inside joke. We had a long,
with that note,
hour conversation about the historical accuracies of the Patriot. So,
sure pistols can fire 2 or 3 times before reloading. I'm almost positive.
Yes. Yes. But the aim small, miss small is a real thing, by the way. That is a real thing.
Okay.
Okay.
And he had several muskets that cost several $100s back then in his house. And that was accurate. So anyway, Algoryn, right? I think Mini Warmut says stay on track, guys. Come on.
I don't think there's a track for us to stay on. I mean,
no, he's referring to last night.
Oh yes, we're not going to even go there.
This is the Antares show, and sometimes we have highlighted subjects.
Listen to the mustachio.
Yeah, always.
I wish I could grow one. I can't.
Right.
Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, I think that we could.
We beat death to death.
Yeah, we could. There's loads more, but there's
Yes.
the
Always
stuff
next time.
starts. There's always next time, and all I can say is summary. Algoryn, definitely Wargamers army. Definitely one of the more interesting factions. And if you want to just have fun, just go and have an Algoryn army and just see what happens when people see you turn up with 5 mag cannons.
So just real quickly, the Strike on Kara 9 box set.
Mm-hmm.
That's Algoryn and whom?
Concord.
Okay.
It's a good box set. Heavily
Now,
recommend for the
Did y'all,
value.
before I showed up, did y'all already do a Concord show?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I believe so.
I think that was the first one we did, right?
That was the very first one. Yes.
yeah.
May have to swing around and do a part 2.
You know what? I can't remember
So
who we
I'll
got.
have questions.
But,
What's that?
I hadn't talked much this show because I was more listening and soaking this in. Algoryn is like I was saying, is like one of my first interests, and every time my son beats me with one of my other armies I play, like Concord and Boar Mites and things like that, I'll go to Algoryn and beat him with them. That's really how it works. It's weird, but that is the way it works. Like Tim said, they're so versatile and they have an answer for absolutely everything. And I mean, I have Skimmers, Avengers. I have a couple of Avengers. I have another one over there I haven't built yet. I just overall I enjoy the Algoryn. My 3 armies that I play, me and my son split up the factions. The ones I play are Algoryn, Concord, and Boar Mites. He plays the Virai. What does he play? He plays the Virai, the Isaurians, and the Gar. Of course, he plays the Gar. And I play Rebel Gar, and he plays the Freeborn now. So that's how we divided it up. But anyway, what factions have we not talked about yet?
Gar Rebel, technically.
Yeah.
Privateers. Isaurians, right?
I don't think
We have not done Isaurians, I don't think. Have we done Isaurians?
I don't believe we have.
I don't think so.
Let me look. Fifel goes beyond the gates of Antares. Yeah, sorry, couldn't resist. Good job, Mini Warmut. That was from last night. This kid, I swear. Yeah.
I had to mute myself because I was.
Yeah, you were laughing. So we have done the Gar.
Empire, Gar Empire, not the Gar Rebels or whatever.
Or Gar Exiles. Yep.
We did the Concord was episode 2, so first. Then we did a Freeborn, then we did a Boar Mites, then we did the Gar, and we done Algoryn. So Isaurians has to be done. What do you say we do that next time?
I'm down with that. I love San Kiri.
And he says Isaurian haven't had an episode yet. Morzimus. That's right. I can't pronounce things like that. Anyway, so Isaurians next time. Yes, I can't wait to talk about my sniper. My Lady Luck.
Lady Luck.
It's a very cool model.
Yes, and I did paint her up, so she is painted. She has her Lady Luck decal on her and everything. So
nice.
Very excited to hear about the Isaurians and all their shenanigans that they get into. More of an elite army, if I could say so myself. I feel like they're more of a finesse army, but we'll get to that. Well, thanks, Tim, for sharing everything, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Tabletop Warlord Sergey and Kevin, and Najee, of course. Thanks, man. We learned a lot about the Nexus today. And I think Najee is caught up with the rest of us now.
No, there'll be more. But hey, that's why you got me here.
Najee is absolutely right now with the lady considering all of the different equations.
But thank you guys once again. And thank you everybody who commented. Mini Warmut, of course, Jason Hall. Dig H.
Yep.
Someone else, was there not?
More
and we have had 11 viewers the whole entire time, and I thank you guys who have not commented. That's really great. You're showing us the support for Antares. Please go to the Nexus and check that out. Please show your support for the game. It is a wonderful game, small level, large level. It doesn't matter. It is a fun game, and there's so much story, and that's one of the big reasons why I'm doing this is because I want the stories and the fluff to be out there. So you guys have a source. You can go, okay, Algoryn, boom, Conqueror. Okay, awesome. And this is what it is. We really, really hope you guys will support the game itself. It's a lot of fun to play, not only to talk about, but to play as well. And Tim and Rick, you guys have done a wonderful job with the game, and we appreciate it. And I can point that out. So again, thank you so much. And as far as next time, that's all I've got. You guys got anything else?
Rocco's Tacos.
Nope.
Rocco's Tacos.
Rocco's Tacos. That's got to be a thing, man.
It's gonna be. I wrote it down.
Tacos for dinner tonight. I've said the word too many times.
Rocco's Tacos. Right there. It's going on my dream board. I have a dream board with cards.
Tara's dream board.
That's right. Well, I have Antares, I have Ancients, I have Fantasy, just terrain pieces I want to create. But anyway, that's all I got, guys. So thank you so much. Last but not least, from me to you, ta-ta, and we'll catch you in episode 7, Isorians.